We're joined this week with our guest, long time in the making, the man, the legend, the myth, all of that together. This is Randy Hicks of the Outlaw Chasers. Randy, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, that's quite all right, guys. I don't do these very often. I've only done one other one, but it's, when I see people I like and I watch their program, if I like what I'm seeing, then, you guys kind of hit me up. I was like, yeah, sure. It's been a while. Let's talk some tornadoes and weather.
Yeah. So we were just talking off camera, and boy, you gave us some just bombers. I would have given anything to have been live that whole time, but
I thought we were actually.
I know. I was texting Kieran. I was saying, just go live. Don't even say anything. So I want to jump right into it, and let me bring Kurt in here. Kurt.
Yes, I'm here.
Say hi to everybody.
Yeah, hi everyone, and welcome to Tornado Talk. Yes, from the UK, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for staying up. So I want to get right into this, Randy. You are one of the pioneers of the modern, you've been chasing since the early 90s. How did you get into this?
Well, it started out, originally I didn't have a plan to be a storm chaser. My brother was a United States kickboxing champion and a promoter of all our local tough men contest. And I had a cousin we hauled hay with. His wife was addicted to finger hut. I saw a video camera in there. I was like, hey, get this camera. I'll make the payments. And I just wanted to have a camera so I could film my brother's fights, so I could get that free $60 ringside seat and then go get hammered afterwards, because I was still a drinker back then, So there was really no other plan than that. And I had the thing, maybe 6 or 7 days, we had a tornado warning for Willard, which is like 5 miles away. When you have no weather experience, what's the smartest thing you can do? Grab your 10-year-old nephew and go check it out. So that's what I did, I ran up to the local gas station. Fortunately, it was just a rotating wall cloud with a lowered funnel. So, it didn't touch down, and it passed kind of diagonally in front of me. And I don't know, man, it was like when peanut butter hits a cracker, man. I was on it. I was like, man, I got to do this. It changed my entire life from that one moment. And then I decided, hey, I'm going to be a storm chaser, so.
And that was it. And you were one of the first, yeah, this was correct?
I call our, we were like the second gen. I call ourselves like the second gen tornado chasers, We're pre-movie Twister, but we're not, the old guard that, we always looked up to, like the Marshalls, the Mollers, Doswells, yep. All them old school
Hoadley.
Guys, Yeah, Hoadley, yep. All them guys, they were like gods to us when we started out, and we were just hacks, didn't know much about nothing, just out there doing our thing. But you kind of learn and evolve as you go, and then my biggest pressing matter was, when I first started, I really knew nothing. So I'd just go places, and I mainly went here in Missouri, and like 60 miles from the house, and I had a 69 Buick Skylark with a 455 that went from 0 to death in about 8 seconds. So I would just race off to the first storm I could see and look at it. And I finally got a tornadic storm in Fairplay, Missouri. I forget kind of when that happened. It was, it was 95-ish maybe. I mean, I'd chased 2 or 3 years and really hadn't seen much of anything. And then once I saw that one, and then I saw another one up north of Collins briefly that went through a field. And then, of course, I came back home and I'm watching these other chaser videos out west, and I remember one video in particular that fall I was watching. It was Tim Marshall had shot. It was around El Dorado, Kansas. There was a lake there, and he shot he just goes on, tornado number 9, tornado number 13. And I'm like, man, you got to go where those are. This ain't happening here, So that was the antithesis of what pushed me away from my comfort zone out into Tornado Alley. And I had a 91 Toyota pickup. I gave $500 for. I chased in it for 16 years. I killed 3 deer with it, put on 3 front clips, 16 windshields, and sold it to a Guatemalan for $1,100 16 years later, and it went down to Honduras. It's probably still running.
Well, those things are champs.
And now I'm chasing in, of course, everybody knows I chase in Toyota, which is a 1989 Toyota Corolla station wagon. I gave $80 for it 11 years ago. I've chased from the Canadian border to just outside of Mardi Gras to everywhere in between. I took it out to Oregon, down Highway 1, came up to Seven Falls Gorge. I took a little Do America tour I like to do every so often,
Wow.
What'd you think of Oregon?
For 9 days and slept in it. Spent about $600, had a good time, saw Yellowstone, stuff you want to see in life,
So Randy, what do you so what's your love for Toyotas?
Well, my dad, my dad was my hero and my idol. My dad we come from, very poor out in the hollers and the ridges. My dad was the last child born. His mother was in her early 40s when he was born. They had nothing. My dad joined the Air Force and spent 20 years in the Air Force as a fighter jet engine technician. So, I mean, I was born in Riverhead, New York, lived in the Philippines, lived in Denison, Sherman, Wichita Falls, Texas, Lincoln, Nebraska, somewhere in California, I can't remember, and Columbus, Mississippi. So every 2 years,
military.
You make new friends, you learn how to be social. There's a lot of benefits to being a military brat kid, but there's a lot of downsides because friendships mean so much to you because you never get to obtain them and hang on to them because you're always having to let them go and move on to another one. And then when he finally retired in 74, he went to work for our local Toyota dealership as a Toyota mechanic. And fortunately for me, I learned it as corporal punishment because I was a mouthy kid that was there at the house. So I was forced to learn. And it's been very beneficial to me. I buy, sell, and fix older Toyota pickups and Corollas and Camrys. And of course, everybody knows I'm mainly into the Buick Skylark muscle car. I've had 134 Buick Skylarks since I was 16.
What? That's crazy.
I just got,
you
probably saw the post. I just got back from El Paso, Texas, like 3 days ago with that sick sport wagon, and I just sent the title off on it today. So I'm getting ready to jump on it, and then I got another probe we've got to finish before. I want to get this other probe finished before March 10th because something inside of me telling me that March is going to come out roaring instead of waiting until April like I usually do. So I want to kind of be prepared.
Doesn't feel like Texas, Central Texas in March is going to be.
Oh God. I made 8 or 9 trips to Central Texas last spring. I'm hoping I can go somewhere closer, but
I understand that. I would love to ask you, we're again chatting off camera. You got your start in this. You said your heyday, your best year, was from 2000 to 2010, and you said 2007 was the year you got 49 tornadoes.
Yeah, I got 49. Yeah, 2002. We had, I think we got Gotabo and some tornadoes in Texas. Oh, and then 2003, we got the Franklin, Girard, Stockton, Missouri tornado outbreak, and that was very visceral. I mean, it was everything I could do to keep up with that storm. And because it ain't the kind of tornado I wanted to get in front of because I knew it was too fast and too deadly. But we came up, we were trying to get in close because we were, I wanted to get something close. But anyway, long story short, a tour van had kind of stopped and all their clients had got out and blocked all the road. So we just went ahead and jumped out, and I'm filming it from 3/8 of a mile south of it. And the vibration in my chest is so strong, and I feel the ground trembling below my feet. And I never felt that around a tornado before. This thing is bad. And then then we busted east and north. And long story short, we came right in behind the circulation, and we came into a small neighborhood. And I saw things there that screwed me up. I don't want to see again. But I've I seen what a tornado does to a human body, and it's not a pretty thing.
Yeah,
it's haunted my dream. After that event, I mean, of course, there's nothing I could do. And then, I go up the road a little bit and I pull over, then I just broke down and cried, and I didn't care about the tornado anymore. I just let it go because I couldn't take everything in that just happened, And of course, then then when I got home, she kept haunting my dreams, and I kept having these reoccurring dreams, like, help me. And just your mind does crazy things to you, when you go through trauma, so. She's actually the reason why I built and designed my first video probe. Tim Samaras was, not only was he a colleague and a friend, and he was an inspiration, and he gave me a lot of encouragement, and he helped me a lot, through my chasing, but he inspired me so much. He inspired me. I mean, when he got the Manchester barometric pressure, the 100 millibar barometric pressure reading there at the Manchester, South Dakota tornado with his turtle probe, I watched that National Geographic special that fall, and I was like, man, this is amazing. But of course, at that time, he didn't have one with a video camera in it. It was just to get the scientifics. And I'm like, man, I want to see the inside of that before I die. So that's really when between that and what I'd seen happen to that lady, knowing that tornado had been warned for over 30 minutes and she was somewhere between her car and her house, my mind is like, what had you so busy in your life that you can't pay attention to a weather warning until it's over on top of you, Yeah. So
it consumes you. It consumes your ever existence.
The first probe I built, it was a conical shape. I had 2 high 8 cameras in it because that was what technology was back then. I had Lexan plexiglass as a covering, and I did not know at that time that Tim was already building his second turtle probe that did have the cameras. You know, because I built my probe in the winter of 2003, 2004, and at the Harper County Conway Springs tornado outbreak in May 29th, 2004, I believe it was. That was the first storm I took my probe to, took it right out. We deployed 4 or 5 times from like miles away, and we just kept getting closer. It's moving this way, that way, because we didn't know much. And long story short, I set it down, was able to flee for my life just in a split second. Tornado went right over it. The original probe, the flaw with the original probe was when raindrops would hit the Lexan, it would cause the infinity focusing to kind of zoom in on them and make what the tornado was doing a little more fuzzy.
Oh, wow.
But even that first deployment, I learned things. I mean, for one thing, I learned that there were several vortices running around the wall of the tornado that was visible on that video. And then all the water droplets that were on the camera facing straight up, as the eye of the tornado came over it, the water raced off of it in every direction. So then I knew there was a strong downforce wind falling through the center. And I knew that probably a few years before they were even confirming that through their studies with the Dows and those other things they were doing.
Cool.
But I mean, my deal is when I was very sick and I wasn't sure I was going to make it year to year, you know, Lanny was taking me chasing. Half the time we'd have to come back early because I'd get all jaundiced out, get too sick to go. I just wanted to see the inside of that tornado, you know, and then I watched another TV special where there was the Pampa, Texas tornado in '95. There was a Texas Bible salesman named Ted Quillen, and they interviewed him. And long story short, he goes to his storm shelter. It has a metal door. His dog goes down in. He goes in. He has the door held open, just looking at the tornado, and it took a 90-degree turn and it started coming straight at him. So at the last second, he pulled the latch down on his hatch, and he said, "A voice inside my head said, go to the bottom and turn left." He went to the bottom. He turned left. As soon as he turned, the tornado was so violent. It was an upper level EF4 truncated drill bit tornado. It sucked the steel door plumb off of his storm shelter. He said his dog was on like the second or third step. He saw his dog get sucked up and out of the shelter, and he held onto the wall to look to see where his dog went. And he was looking up through the center of the visible eye of the tornado, and he said he saw
oh my God,
and a tree stump and some other stuff flying around there. And that's really been my personal ultimate goal, is to film the inside of a very mature, lower precipitation, truncated or stovepipe tornado in the latter 2/3 of its life, but not towards the end, where it's at maximus, because that's where the best chance of getting the visible eye is. Because I think there was anytime you're getting videogrammetry in and around in situ of tornadoes, you're getting things that haven't been seen, you know, and that knowledge can come from. I mean, our biggest goal, I mean, you know, Lanny formed Pacratex some years back, and you know, it's a pressure acoustics recording inside of tornadoes experiment is what it's called. And we published our first paper last November, not this November, but the November before, in the EJSSM, which is the Electronic Journal of Severe Storms Meteorology. That particular paper is about the Pilger, Nebraska EF4, which in 2014, me and Lisa deployed. We didn't have scientific instrumentation on the probe at that time, but we did deploy a videographic probe into the Pilger EF4 tornado as it was starting to mature. And then we had Lanny just to the southwest, and Chris was to the southeast. So we had a triangulated data and visual recordings. So basically, Lanny and David Moran, you know, he's very, very smart. Them two guys, I mean, my name is on the paper, but I'm no scientist, but I do my part. You know, if you're not the smart guy, you do your part, because everybody's a team. Nobody's better than anyone else. You know, I mean, we all work together, you know. And it's just
well said.
Yeah, well said.
It's good for me, because I want my legacy to be that I made a difference.
Yeah.
You know, I ain't about the following. It says I'm a content creator now on Facebook. I've never pursued any of that. I don't, if you look at my videos, my video viewership, they're crazy videos. They may have 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. That's fine with me. I mean, if people want to check me out and watch my video, that's cool. I don't chase for the public's approval or for instant fame or or to see how many people I can sucker money out of. None of that's my style. I mean, would I like to be funded? Yeah, who wouldn't? You know, but
Right.
there's other ways to get money besides that way. And, you know, and we're working other angles. Work out fine. If not, I mean, most seasons I spend about all I can afford to spend. The most I've ever spent any tornado season chasing storms was about $5,200. Usually I spend between $1,800 and $2,300 a year.
Oh, wow.
And I'm out there
Really?
getting stuff done that no one else can seem to get done.
Yeah, amazing. That's amazing on that budget.
So
well, I'm 60 years old. We got an app on our phone. It's called Free Campsites. I can't afford a $160 motel, so I'm sleeping in a free campsite. Wondering if, you know, I'm going to get jacked, shot, or maybe, you know, catch a fish with a guy in the morning. You just never know where you're camping at, you know.
So Kieran,
of course, you know,
Kieran.
Yeah. Then I've got you know, of course I got the insulator now, you know. Man, Bryant has really been a godsend. He's come along at a good time. He's very devoted. He's actually more gung-ho than he's ready to go about any time. I've become more selective as I get older. But yeah, we've been running and gunning pretty hard. He puts up insulation for a living, you know, and then and of course, you know, I had Lisa, you know, the original Outlaws was me and Lanny, and then we brought in Lisa McGee, which is my good friend, who her son had died in a drag race. We kind of met under those kind of circumstances, and I wasn't the nicest person, but long story short, we became friends, and she became part of us. And then we had.
Can you give us the timeline on that?
Randy,
can you give us a timeline on that real quick for people? Because a lot of people, you're just now getting introduced to a lot of people.
Me and Lanny started together around 98, I want to say. Okay. And then and then Mad Cow Mike, he came in. I knew him from high school. He was just a guy down the street. I started taking Mad Cow with me probably around 2002 time frame. I was still going with Lanny, but I was taking Mike some. You know, we were kind of mixing it back and forth. And then Lisa came in around the 04 time frame. Yeah, I think it was 04 because she was with me that year. I got all those crazy tornadoes, the 49 tornadoes everywhere we went. Almost died in Greensburg. It was just insane. Oh,
cool.
I have had some amazing tornado encounters, and how I've lived through all of it, I still don't have a clue.
Oh, your videos are legendary. And you know, there's a lot of controversy with zero metering. And as you get older and see the lay of the land with this new generation, and now, I mean, everything's handheld. Once upon a time, you didn't have anything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had a dinosaur that weighed about 30 pounds. I could drive 60 and hold on my shoulder. You know?
Yeah. So what do you think when you see this? What do you think?
Well, you know, I mean, it's not all bad. I mean, I've seen, you know, last year I stopped by the Samarises. I stopped by the Twist-X Memorial, which I don't do it too often because it's very hard for me emotionally. But anyway, I had some time to kill, and I stopped out there. I did my quick respects paying, and then I just kind of stepped back with Bryant. And then we were there for maybe 40 minutes, and I must have saw 15 or 20 cars pull up, and all but one of them were very young very motivated meteorology students. And I mean, I think that's a great thing, is because especially, you know, they're working hard to get their education to understand the weather. But as chasers, we all know all the books in the world are great, but until you're actually out there dancing with it, you don't fully understand what you're messing with until it's messing with you. You know,
right?
I am. You know, the best I can account, I've been inside of 14 tornadic circulations.
Wow.
13 of them inside a vehicle, and the one in Glen, Mississippi, where I got stuck behind the car and broke my ankle, but was able to crawl back just in time to pull the probe back and get some data. That was probably the dumbest and craziest thing I'd done in a long time. But at that point, you know, I was going through a lot of that. My mother's health was failing. You know, I felt like, you know, we're not getting anywhere with this. And it's just certain storms, you know, you got to study your tornadoes. Tornadoes are there's things you can learn about a tornado, certain types of tornadoes. Like, I don't ever try to put myself in front of very fast developing erratic wedge tornadoes, say El Reno, say Joplin, you know, those kind of tornadoes, because they're so unpredictable and so violent. And if, you know, I got in front of the Cold Ridge wedge, but I was 2.5 miles ahead of it when I crossed where its path was going to be. But like truncated tornadoes.
Where were you for Joplin?
Joplin.
Sorry,
I was on the storm that was to the north at first, and it wasn't producing, and we left it. And I think the town just west of Joplin, right on by the state line, is called Jasper. It's a little hole in the wall town. I may be wrong on that, but I think it's called Jasper. I came down to 266 and stopped at the stop sign. And it was at that point, the entire sky was just a black, evil, destructive beast. You couldn't really just see the tornado, but the whole storm was the tornado. And I had the option to turn and go left and get out in front of it on 266, which would have put me right in the path through Joplin. But after quick analysis, this ain't worth it. I know the roads real well in that area. I thought, you know, I told Lisa, look, our best bet here, we've got to let this one go. We can't deploy in this. It's too deadly. Let's circle back in around behind. So we circled back in around behind and we shot out onto I-44. And then when we got towards the east side of Joplin by the Flying J, where the tornado had crossed the interstate, it was at that point, of course, we jumped out. We started looking through vehicles, looking for people. I was totally unaware that there was over 160 dead people behind me in town. I mean, the violence I saw out on the highway was, I mean, you knew it was bad, but there was no way you could tell it was that bad, you know. And after about 10 minutes of searching, you know, we pulled into the Flying J parking lot a little after that, and then we walked around at looking at some other vehicles that was flipped off the highway, and wasn't finding anybody. Everything was cool. And it was at that point, you know, I saw first responders racing in from the south, from the west, from the north, because that's where all those highways converge. And I made the conscious decision, which I often do when professionals come into an area to do their job. You're better served to get out of their way and let them do their job. If I would have known that so many people were there, of course, we would have stayed. But
yeah,
that's just, I've done this before. I mean, that's a split-second call you just kind of have to make in the moment, you know. And this table's crazy. It goes up and down on its own.
So can I, Kieran,
he's got this,
technology.
It blows me away.
Kieran, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yep.
I'm just thinking, can we play some of Randy's stuff?
Yes, let's show the audience some of what Randy has recorded over the years. This is fantastic video.
I can only imagine the teaser you put together. Let's check it out.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
Outlaws, baby. Oh,
There'll be no fun on side today. I know it's in the house! Wow!
It's a corkscrew drilling. Right behind us. Unbelievable. See the rain wrap tempting me. Debris again. Oh, it's out.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! But we know how to represent, son.
there we go.
Yeah, that's the intro to Funnel Side. That was the first video I dropped.
That was fantastic. That's
Six or 7
the
years
best
ago,
footage.
maybe.
Some of the best footage that I've seen.
It was just time to make one.
Took a straight cut from your YouTube channel there. I didn't do any editing.
Yeah, it was you know, for the longest time, I mean, I knew what I was doing was very risky and very insane when I first started, you know, trying to probe these tornadoes and put my stuff in them. And actually you know, from 2004 until probably 2013 or so, I never really posted any of my video because I was so afraid that young kids would try to emulate that. That was my biggest fear. You know, I mean, I didn't really seem to care whether I lived or died at that moment because I had so much going on that wasn't positive in my life. But then, you know, once this next generation of kids start coming out and I start seeing some of their videos, I'm like, man, what was this kid? You know, just like this one last year, the kid that out there in Illinois, you know, he had 2 escape routes. Instead, he waits and he turns and he drives right into the path. Then he screams like he wants his mom or something. I'm like, well, you brought on yourself. that's the problem with a lot of these guys don't get is time kind of slows down when you're in a near-death experience like that. Your mind is everything. Fear will kill you so quickly because it makes you do dumb things.
Yeah.
You always have to have your wits on your brain all the time, because not only am I responsible for my life, but I'm responsible for whatever lives are riding with me, helping me push this dream. And when you're doing it in a $80 armored Toyota Corolla, you got to watch what you're doing. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've got big dreams like anybody. I mean, there's things I would like to achieve. And the main thing, it'd be nice if we just, if we just had some good funding, I mean, we're looking into things. I mean, our first paper came out 2 years ago. We're in the process of trying to get another paper submitted and accepted. Scientific paper peer review is a very arduous process. It's not for everybody. But science is important, and if science was easy, everybody would be obtaining it.
And that's not the case.
We're the only privately funded tornadic research team that's ever existed who has got the data and the things that we've gotten on our own money. We ain't used a penny of no one else's.
So where does that go to?
Excellent.
Hold on, I want to hit on that, Randy. When you've done that and you've come up with that and you've submitted that, what was the final step? How come, where's the link missing on you not getting funded after showing you're worthy of this science?
Well, the way that I've come to understand through Lanny's, Lanny's a lot smarter on this than I am. You might want to get him out for a chat sometime if you can get him to. He doesn't do a lot of public speaking, but
yeah, he's in Brazil, right?
But he what was we saying? I just forgot there. What was you just asking?
Oh, no, about you. You got science. You're the only. You said you're the only private funded team, and I don't know if it's team or a scientist. I mean, if you're doing science, that has gotten the result clearly. Your videos show. I mean, next to you and Dr. Samaras, and Dr. Tamer, I can't imagine anybody else that's done it any closer.
It goes back. A lot of people don't know. I mean, the inside scoop basically is that shortly before Samaras and Twistex passed away, me and Lanny had actually kind of, after we did the TV show and we'd had the show on True TV called Tornado Hunters, which was the original Tornado Hunters, not the Canadian show they came after. But we did that 1 hour special. We kind of got shafted around. None of the promises were kept. Long story short, they promised us the moon. They did a couple of days of interviews and phony reenactments, took our best footage, made about $5 million off of us, sold us to Discovery UK and to True TV. And then they kicked us to the curb. Then they kicked us to the curb and didn't honor any of their contract. Then immediately I'm contacted by Storm Chasers wanting me to sign with them. But I had a non-competition clause in the True TV deal that would not allow me to sign with anyone up until June 18th. And this was after the first season of Storm, whatever that show on Discovery was, Storm Chasers. That was, that first season of Storm Chasers, it was pretty lame. They didn't find any storms. All their equipment was breaking down. It was all about equipment and truck stops. And it was really quite boring, and I just did what I always do for anybody. I mean, when Ronan was the field producer for that show, he came to me. He's like, hey, man, we're going to make you a superstar. I said, man, I've heard all this crap before. I don't want to hear it no more. I can't sign. I don't break contracts. I was raised better than that. You're not going to get me to break another contract, sign with you. They tried, but I wouldn't do it. And then I'm like, hey, your show, I'll be honest with you, your show's kind of lame. It's supposed to be about tornado chasing, not about a bunch of scientific geek crap that the large majority of the public don't even understand. I said, you need to get somebody in there that's aggressive and knows what they're doing. I said, you need to hire Reed Timmer and his crew. And I actually threw the bone right straight to him. And of course, he got it on his own merit.
Crazy.
He got it on his own merit. I know, but I mean, it didn't hurt that we threw the bone,
Yeah.
Because, me and Tim.
That's lost.
Yeah, me and Reed, what did I say? Reed? Yeah, Reed's the one I threw the bone at. Yeah. I told him to hire Reed Timmer, so they did. And I mean, me and Reed go way back. I mean, before he was even really known, and I was that well known, I'd be like, what the hell is this Reed Timmer guy? I'd go out and bank something and think I did good, and I'd come home like 2 days later and I'd see something else. It's like, man, this guy's killing me. This guy's killing me. So I went out there and did my best to compete with him and 2 or 3 dominators. We held our own.
You did pretty good against a bunch of tanks, you and your Toyota.
You can't ever get enough. Things are changing. For the longest time, the scientists always talked about the rear flank downdraft. They thought the tornado was related to the rear flank downdraft, and that really was never our area of great interest. I mean, you know, if you read our paper in the Electronic Journal of Severe Storms Meteorology, our paper is volume 17, number 3. I invite, you know, any of your scientifically educated or just your general public to go in there and you can study that paper, and it kind of breaks down, you know, some of the things we're studying. I mean, we're the first people to study infrasonic sounds that a tornadic storm makes. We've been doing that for about 13 or 14 seasons now. At the time after our show had happened, you know, just a lot of the pressures and the running together for years, we kind of had like anybody, you know, the pressure, the stress, we butted heads, we cussed each other out, we went our own way for a little bit, you know.
Yeah,
and then
that happens. That is normal.
Yeah.
That is
and then,
absolutely
you know,
normal.
Lanny and Tim, you know, they think on the same mind level, that scientific level, that engineering level. So they kind of loosely work together to help. The infrasonic device we have, it has very good quality high filtering, better than anything that's ever been designed. Because the thing that a lot of people will put out, you know, like a quick science paper or a little science deal on the internet, but if your data is contaminated from background noises or other things that you can't filter out, it's really not valid, you know, testable science, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because it's too many background things are messing with it. And the infrasonics, we got Lanny and Tim worked on that together, and they both had a device. Now, of course, when Tim and them perished, theirs all got destroyed, and Lanny had his, but it took him Lanny built the device and how it works, and Tim wrote the codes for it. So after he had passed away, it took Lanny about 1.5 years to figure out what the codes were, so we could start making it work again. And then we got back together, and I immediately built him a probe because he was just placing it outside of a tornado because it wasn't armored enough, you know. So I built his first probe for him, and then right after that, he got the Tulsa, Oklahoma tornadic event and was able to get great data, infrasonics. You know, the science of infrasonics, it's not too strongly accepted because there's so much unknowns with it. But I can tell you from what I've seen when I look on the graphs and the charts, when he's analyzing the data and the data that we collect, whenever we turn this device on and we set it in front of a rotating thunderstorm, we've done it multiple times before they're even warned. You'll get in like an oscillograph, you know, it'll kind of roll up and down in a wave. That's the infrasonic sound of the storm in rotation. And then when it starts to make a tornado, we get a second signature that starts spiking very violently and quickly. And multiple times we have detected that infrasonic signature on an average of 9 to 11 minutes before Doppler radar is warning these storms.
Wow, that's huge. I mean, that's massive.
That is huge, but it's going to take a lot of data. Now, I mean, we've got maybe, I don't even know, you'd have to ask Lane. I bet we've got 25 or 35 different storms of good infrasonic quality recordings. But because it's not a highly accepted science yet, so you really can't just make a paper about it, because you have to get more data, more field research. The way I look at it, I'll probably be dead and gone 10 or 15 years before the value of what we've obtained has for the benefit of the science and the study of tornadic development.
I was just going to say that, Randy. I was going to say you probably will have dedicated your life to this.
I have.
And given it. Yeah, I mean, you have to this point, but I'm saying it probably will not be until you're gone that what you're talking about will be included.
I just turned 60 years old last October, and this will be my 31st year chasing storms. So half of my life is went to this. I gave up relationships. I gave up places to live. I gave up food. I've had to sell my muscle car collection at times to chase. I do whatever it needs to be done. You know, I mean, I'm sitting strong on $1,400 right now for this whole season, so I'm feeling pretty good.
So, Randy, are you back out again this season?
Oh yeah, we're ready, getting ready to roll. I've got Way Cool Jr., which is my first probe was called the Caminator. It's the one that had the high 8 cameras. It got the first footage ever captured of any quality at the Conway Springs event in June 16th, in May 29th of 2004. And then I retired it at the Hoxie, Kansas tornado was its last deployment. And that was then the raindrops. And then really the only reason it's a long story, but you know, I had this dream. Every time I try to live my dream, the struggles of life get in the way. It almost becomes unsurmountable. I keep trying to fold Outlaw Chasers, but it won't die. You know, and after my kid died and I was going through all these problems, I was about ready to give it up then. And then I met Lisa, who lost her son, you know, and then she's like, no, I'm going to live this dream with you. Wherever we got to do, let's go. She kept Outlaw Chasers alive for 14 years. You know, she's going through a lot of health issues. She hasn't been with me in the last 3 or 4 seasons, but I've been visiting her. She's feeling better. We're really going to try really hard to get her out there a little bit more this year because she deserves that for what she's done.
Can I talk about that real quick? Can I give you my
I'd like to
personal?
hear about that.
So, you and Lisa are platonic. You guys are friends.
Just
I
friends.
understand that,
Everybody
right?
thought we were husband and wife, but no, we're just friends.
So I too, my chase partner is my best friend, closest, same thing, same as you, just friends. And I can't tell you the level of like you get out of a chase partner that knows you. You know, you guys have been through the wars, the battles. Courtney and I went through 3 years, 300,000 miles across the country over and over, helped a lot of people. You and Lisa as well, same thing. There's not a lot of, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but platonic or whatever the word is when you're a male female chase team that aren't of the husband wife, or you guys were one of the first is what I'm getting at. I feel like me and Courtney were like the next generation of that. And so
when I first started chasing, I had a Pomeranian that was psychotic. He was my first chase partner. His name was Jason. I called him Psycho Buddy. You know, we kind of learned Tornado Alley together, and then, like I said, Lanny came into the mix, and then he started the tour companies and stuff, and that started kind of pulling him away. And then, of course, I had built the probe, and I'm taking these death-defying, up-close, extreme chances. He's got little babies at home. We kind of had to go to our own vehicle. We still supportive of each other, but we kind of had to ride in our own. You know, he was moving in a direction, and he was going to work for the TV stations and better in his career, which that's perfect. But I was still, fighting for that shot, so I kind of drifted my way. And then when Lisa come along, she just, man, it was such a blessing, because one thing I learned about people, you know, when I was younger and my life was all messed up and my marriage had fell apart. I never got to see my kids. I was so lost in drugs and alcohol, living on the streets, bouncing from place to place. I would never want to repeat that again. Don't get me wrong. Living on the streets is no place for anyone to have to be. But since I'm a glass half full kind of guy, there were many blessings in that. One, I learned what true friendship is. Because before I wound up on the streets, I had the $11 an hour job in 1980, and I had all the party supplies, and I had all the friends, and my life was great. But when all that dries up, I got 2 friends left in the world that want. Do you have a place to sleep? Are you hungry? Those were true friends. Everyone else was just a user. So those times on the street made me a really good character of reading people, and it works really well in Tornado Alley. I mean, you meet a lot of people that put on a certain persona on TV or in front of you. But no sooner than you turn away, you can hear their mouths running and they're talking down the back of your neck. And that's fine if that's what it takes to make them be better men. I don't have time for all of that drama. You know, if I wanted drama, I would date a redhead. You know what I'm saying?
Can I ask you a question on that, Randy? Can I ask you, Randy, the first time you saw that, you witnessed in person somebody that's a TV personality be completely somebody else? And the switch, the first time I saw it, I was like, "Oh my god!" I couldn't believe it. It was like a magic trick.
Yeah, and I wouldn't, never name names or put these.
No, I'm not asking names
because they out themselves anyway. People see through the phoniness of people, you know.
Yes, yeah, okay, we'll leave it at that. The first time I saw it, in a hurricane, I was like, "What did I just witness?" That is not what.
It's kind of funny, you know. I mean. A lot of people, you know, like, well, what's up with Outlaw Chasers? How come you're Outlaw Chasers? How did that come about? You know, and I mean, I've always been kind of an outlaw. I've been the black sheep of my family. I've always felt kind of like an outcast. So it wasn't hard shoes to fit. But when I was in the winter of 95, my hepatitis had gotten so bad that I was very jaundiced out and my health was failing me. And I would spend 4 to 9 days on a couch and couldn't get up because I had no energy. and then you'd get a little energy, then it'd knock you back down a few weeks later. It was a vicious cycle that went on for 4 or 5 years. And
Oof.
my brother doesn't deal. I'm a realist, you know. I accept our life is but a vapor. Enjoy what you've got. Be good to people. That's really all you can ask of anybody. Treat them the way you want them to treat you. Those are the principles I try to live by. It's hard to do nowadays, especially. But my brother doesn't deal with the loss of people as well because he's been through a lot of trauma himself. So basically, long story short, when I was very sick, he brought me all these VHS tapes over. Were like Twister, Fury on the Plains, Tornado Video Classics 1, 2, and 3, and the tapes of the 90s, you know, were these titans of storm chasers that they were like gladiator warriors to me. I looked up to every one of them. I bought all their freaking tapes. I read their papers. I absorbed everything I could from these guys because I wanted something I could gain from them to make me better. I wanted to be better. And my very first big, crazy, successful tornado intercept was in the Elmina, Kansas in 1999. And that's on Funnel Side where I'm stuck in the mud and the girls are washing the truck and all that. When I got up to that storm, of course I learned a lot of things that day. I learned how a tornado's life cycle works because I got to witness it all. I learned that you don't want to drive down a dirt road in Kansas very often or you'll get stuck, you know, but it just, of course I didn't know I was going to, try to study scientifically on the tornadoes. And then I always said I was just a squirrel trying to get a nut, because I like the rush. I like to see it. But a lot of people they'll label you because this is a labeling time we live in. Everybody has to blame someone for something else besides their own selves. Now,
Yep.
when I came out, it was before the internet, before we had Storm Track, which was like an internet site. And well, they sure loved to ride on us over there back in the day. But I understood we rocked the boat. I came out strong. I came out loud. I was not afraid to live. I wasn't afraid to die. I was even trying to die on a few storms because I didn't care anymore. So, I was just going for it. But I kept learning and evolving. And then it's just kind of worked into what it is now, which is now, I'm like the old dog on the block. My health's starting to fail.
Yeah.
My hips hurt.
Yeah.
My shoulders hurt. I go in next week for a stress test. I got to put a heart monitor on for 2 weeks next month because I keep having crazy skippy heartbeats.
Imagine that after the career you've had, you've got some skippy
Yeah.
heartbeats, my friend.
Yeah. Well, I think it's.
Can I ask
think
you about Pilger?
Oh,
Do you mind if I
yeah,
ask you about?
sure.
Yeah. So tell me your experience in Pilger. Not to derail you there, but I got to
Well,
ask that.
I'll start with what led up to that. I had my original probe. Of course, when I got my footage, I went to that storm convention and entered a video contest. And then I saw Tim there and I saw his video. And, I went to that first convention back in 90-something, mid-90s. And there were 3 people there that treated me like I was a human being. And Dr. David Gold, who gave me the first words of strong encouragement I ever had, because I was wanting to try to learn the weather sciences and I couldn't figure it out because my brain didn't work that way. And he just told me, he said, Randy, you just do you because whatever you're doing works. Don't worry about what other people know or don't know. And that was really some of the best advice I ever got. And then Roger Hill and then Tim Samaras was great to me. Tim always made you feel like the most important person in a room when you were in a room with him. He was just that way. And when they the day of El Reno, I chose me and Chris Rice, which is Speedy Gone Chase Ass. He's on the Funnel Side. He's my buddy up north. We chase a lot. If I like you, I give you a crazy nickname. That's just how the Outlaws work, But the day of the El Reno storm, we had a discussion. He's like, hey, man, all the parameters are pointing around the Oklahoma City Metroplex. I'm like, dude, you remember what happened? Last year we were down there around Kingfisher. We almost got killed by all those carloads of idiots that wouldn't get out the way. We almost got run over. And I was like, and we both agreed we did not want to be in that thick of a cluster metro area. And he told me right out, he goes, Randy, if we go down there, someone's going to die today, and I don't want it to be us. So we've opted for a storm over by Coffeyville and caught a tornado over there, which no one knows about because of the tragic events of what unfolded that day. But
What did you catch in
there,
Coffeyville? Sorry to interrupt. Tell us about that since I've never heard of it either. Tell what'd they see? What'd you see?
It wasn't as great as you'd think. We saw the tornado from the Norman Rockwell distance of like 14 miles. But fortunately, I was going down a mud, dirt, gravel road, and I ran into some gal who was very highly spun on methamphetamine and freaking the heck out. and I
Oh,
didn't want to
boy.
leave her terrified, so I led her out of the way from the storm. I didn't want to see her get killed, even though she was lost in drugs. You know, I mean, so it wasn't
I
it
spent
wasn't the
time
best.
in.
It wasn't the best tornado, but anyway, back to what I was saying about the getting leading up to Pilger was,
Yeah.
you know, after the El Reno storm, I can remember, you know, like the next day, you know, you're hearing the little peeps are coming out. You know, oh man, Chaser's got killed. Chaser's got killed. Oh God, who could it be? Who could it be? You know, just my mind was racing through all these scenarios. You know, and then when I heard, it just cut me like a knife, man. I mean, I died inside. I cried for 3 weeks straight. I couldn't stop crying. I just bawled and bawled. I mean, it totally devastated me. It took all the wind out of my sails. I didn't care about storms anymore. I didn't care about nothing. And then it's
a lot
like,
of people quit. Sorry,
and then I'm
a
like,
lot of
well,
people quit out of that.
why did
And
this
I
happen? How
wanted
did
them.
this happen? You know, what were the circumstances? And I've heard things, and I mean, you know, you can, from what we know scientifically, I mean, the storm went from what, half a mile to 2.6 miles wide, 38 seconds or something, and they got engulfed by a strong vortex in the tornado that just obliterated them instantly, you know.
God.
And I can remember that winter. I was very, you know, I'd go over to Lisa's. We'd just sit around, and we were very depressed. And I had a friend that was in Salt Lake City, Utah. His Toyota blew a head gasket. He was remodeling his parents' house. The shop there wanted like $2,800 to do a head gasket. He calls me. He's like, Randy, I can get a free flight down to you if I pay for you to drive to Salt Lake City, fix my truck, and I'll pay for all your gas and the whole experience. So yeah, it's an adventure. So I went for it. While we were up at his house, we were at his parents' house. There was a big outbreak in Illinois. I forget what outbreak it was, but it was a wintertime outbreak, like February or whatever. There were several tornadoes, big tornadoes, and I kind of had a bipolar breakdown in the basement. You know, I started venting and cussing and screaming, which some I hardly ever do, but I just lost it. I'm like, man, I was so frustrated. It's like, God, I'm trying so hard. I'm doing so much. You know, I come all the way up here doing your will to help this man fix his vehicle, and this is how I get thanked for it, by not being able to get to these tornadoes close to my house. And of course, he kind of wigged out. Then I apologized to him. I said, look, dude, man, it's not that big a deal. I've missed tornadoes all my life. It's just, I've got so much things going on. I really wish I could have been there. So he's like, well, man, let's go around Salt Lake City, and I'm going to show you some stuff. You get your mind off of it. So I was like, okay, cool, let's go. So and I didn't know what the purpose of that day was until later. But anyway, we went down and looked at the big Mormon tabernacles, the Great Salt Lakes, this and that, a few places. And he goes, hey, you know, we got a new natural history museum. Would you like to check that out? And I was like, man, you know, I've never been to a real museum like that. That'd be cool. Let's do that. So we went to the museum, and we started out in the dinosaurs, Paleo Indians. Every floor you'd come up to another section, you know. And we come across this gangway, and it said science. And I walked into this room, and there was a large petition wall, and you're walking up this side of it, and you're seeing all kinds of scientific stuff. And then as soon as I came around the corner, right there was Tim Samaris's In Sutro video on display, on tour, at that museum, at that moment.
Wow.
And it was, you would step inside of it, and it would come on. You know what I'm saying? So as soon as I come around the corner, I had an emotional breakdown, and I didn't want my friend to see me crying. So I turned, and I just stepped in there to hide from him. And of course, when I stepped in, the lights came on, it lit up, and then I had the tornado all around me. And then I put Tim to rest. I had a talk with him, and I promised him that I would build a new probe, and I would do whatever I had to do to get it into tornado next year. If I have to give my life, if I have to put up with any amount of hate, any amount of judgment, any sacrifice, whatever it takes, I'm going to build a new probe, a better probe, and I'm going to make you proud of me. And then I came back home with a fire in my belly, and the hurt was still there, but I was able to put it in its place. And I immediately built Wade Cool Jr., my next probe. And then I put it in the Pilger tornado the next year, and the rest is history. And I made history. And what I got for it was, articles from, I won't say his name, but well-known guy. I was a pig wallowing in the mud, only thinking about myself and self-glory and fame and all this other crap, which I didn't give two cents about. But I mean, that's see, God works in strange ways. That's kind of how it happened. I mean,
that is.
You know,
can I ask you about another tornado? Can I, if you don't mind? Can I ask you about another tornado?
Oh, yeah. Ask me about anything.
Historic. The Greensburg tornado. Where were you that night?
Wow. somewhere back on my timeline on my Facebook, you can hit search and look up like Greensburg tornado. I actually wrote a long article like a year or so after when I was reflecting back on it. Greensburg was insane. You know, most people don't know this, but that was in that's the year I seen the 49 tornado. You know, all these tornadoes, I was seeing tornadoes everywhere we were going. And long story short, why the production company I signed with, they were supposed to send out a videographer and a guy with a mic 2 or 3 different days. He said, oh yeah, we got a guy catching a flight. He'll be out to document what you're doing. They never did. And that day they were supposed to have a guy fly out into Wichita that was going to film and document what we saw on the day of Greensburg, and they never showed up. And my camera, whenever the tape would go bad, it would jam and I couldn't eject it. So I was having equipment problems. It was frustrating. But
Can I have real quick? Sorry, continue on. I apologize.
Nice. I just got
real quick. Sorry, continue on. I apologize.
Oh, go ahead. I just want to let you guys
Laney
know,
jumped
man.
in the comments. Laney said that he's.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Laney just bumped in and said, "Go ahead and tell him, man." I was exciting as hell.
Yeah, sorry, man. I just saw that.
Yeah, hey guys, we're running out of time now, so I don't want to disturb
tell
anyone.
him the announcement, Kyle. What did he say? He said our second paper just got accepted. So we're going to be 2-time published authors now. And one thing we know is that to get government funding and grants for tornadic research, you have to be a 2-time published author. So we knocked that one off. So now we'll see if we can get a little funding, maybe, hopefully.
Yes.
But if not, it is what it is, you know. I mean, but yeah, I can sit on here and talk all night. That's how I run off most women.
Well, I do appreciate it. We do have one question. My earpiece died. I don't know if you can still hear me. I want to get to this question because I think it's a really important one. Pamela said she'd like to know if the probe that you built with your friend's ashes ever made it up into a tornado.
Yes, if you watch our YouTube channel and you watch Caught in a Fishbowl, me and Peyton went on a 3 or 4 day tornado adventure, and we were able to deploy Jim into the circulation of that tornado. I'm not 100% satisfied with that deployment, though, and I still plan on, I still have a portion of his ashes I'm going to try to put in another tornado, and then we're going to get a barbecue or an event together down at the swimming hole with his family and friends, and then pour the rest of his cremains into the river like he wanted in the end.
Wow.
And of course, Peyton was our right-hand guy. I mean, unfortunately, Peyton took his life in April, about a week before my mother died last year. And I would just like people to know that Peyton was the best kind of people. He was a good person. He struggled throughout his life with some of the upbringing issues and things in his life, and some of his relationships weren't all that great. And all the hate that he received on the internet and the put downs and the BS played a big part in the decision he made. So my hope is to anybody that's hearing this, if you know somebody that's depressed and they need some help, don't be afraid to approach them, talk to them. I had talked with him about it before. I thought he was getting better, but when a person loses the love of their self, all the love from others makes no difference. So please, when you think it's cool to run your mouth and talk some shit about somebody or run them down, remembering that your action may have a reaction.
Well said.
That is not, I believe in a God, and I know I'm going to go stand before him someday. And if you don't believe and there is no God, then you ain't got nothing to worry about. But I'm here to tell you, brother, if there is, and I believe there is, when you stand there, you're going to see everything you ever did that was good to someone and everything you ever did that was bad to someone, and try to make the good outweigh the bad. And that's how the Outlaws roll.
Yeah, I do appreciate you taking a moment, and I know that's a highly emotional, and
it's got me all screwed up, man. I still ain't sleeping right. I still worry about it. I worry about his son. There's nothing I can do. I look at it like this. I mean, I am very blessed and very thankful that God brought him into my life, because he was a truest friend to me in ways that he never even knew. I don't. If he would have known just how special he was to me, I don't think he would have ever done what he did. I
That's,
really
you know
don't.
what, both him and Dakota, we lost both of them, unfortunately, tragically
I
to
know it.
suicide. And it's
know
such a heartbreaker. Both those guys deserved it all. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you took a moment to shine a light on that. I definitely, I'd love to have you back again, Randy. I know you're a hard guy to get. And the information, and again, I apologize for talking over you. I just saw it like opening a present at Christmas in the comments with Lanny's. So I certainly didn't mean to steal the shine there, but that's incredible news. I got some.
Oh,
go ahead. No,
we've been working on Lanny and David in particular have been working. You know, it takes about 14 or 15 months to put a paper together, go through the peer review process, you know, make the changes. It's a lot of politics involved, but science is worth it. You young guys coming up, if you decide you want to start, you know, putting instrumentation and stuff into probes, don't worry about being published. Just get data. Any amount of data you know, we gathered data for 12, 13 years before we ever even tried to publish anything. So
wow, that long.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
Get your data and live your dream, but don't do it too foolishly. And don't drive with idiots. There's no storm that's worth going 80, 90, 100 mile an hour topping the hill to run a family off the road to see from 3 miles away.
God, that's the best advice I think
I've been
ever
doing this.
heard.
I've been doing this 31 years, and I have never had a ticket chasing storms.
Yeah.
I drive good when I'm away from the storm. And when I'm close to the storm, hey, if I'm driving fast, there ain't nobody there anyway. You know?
Right. No, you've shown and demonstrated. I've always been a fan of your footage, a fan of your team. You know what you guys mean to me. It means a lot for you to come out and especially right now, take the time to chisel out.
I just figure it doesn't hurt, you know. I mean, me and you, I've always liked you. I mean, you know, when you first come out, everybody railing on you. We had those late night talks, you know, and I try to help anybody coming up I can, you know, or give my little 2 cents, whether it's anything that matters or not. It just to know that people are out there, we care, we understand. You know, now if I see stupidity, I ain't gonna get on the internet and run you down, but I'll get in your personal message like, man, boy, you know, you need to step away from that.
You and Granzy, you guys told me get off the internet, and I doubled down and went at it harder. And man, you guys had the best advice, and I would have done anything to go back and listen. So
one of the last things here, one of the best advices I ever got was from Gene Moore, and he may not want me to share this, but
go ahead.
He told me if you feed the sharks, they will come to eat.
Oh, that's so good.
Or the rats.
That's so
That's
good.
what it was. Yeah. If you feed the rats, they will come to eat.
Yeah. The same as
In
you,
other
Kyle.
words, if you're just going to argue with people that do nothing but argue, they're never going to stop arguing with you. That's what they're good for, you know.
Do we have 30 seconds left?
Yeah.
I want to ask real quick. You said one of the 3 people that gave you the time of day was Roger Hill. We're going to have him on here in the next very soon. What did you tell me about Roger Hill being a stand-up guy on our way out of here?
Well, Roger was just, you know, when I went to that first convention, of course, him and Tim kind of put them on back then, you know, and Roger was just super nice to me. Even every time I've seen him out in the field, you know, I mean, he's always, you know, of course, he's a very busy man because he runs a lot of big major tours and you know, he's made a great living at it, but he's very knowledgeable. He's a very good chaser and just a very good down to earth guy. I mean, really, you know, he is.
Well, I appreciate that.
I never had no problem with Roger, man. There's a few of them out there I butted heads with, and some of them out there that don't like me, but that's all right.
You're a pretty forgiving guy, Randy. You're one of the good ones.
Yeah, you have to be.
Know?
Yeah, you have to be, man. Because if you carry hate and hurt in your heart, you're only hurting yourself in the end.
It really is. And I've tried to turn a new leaf this last 2 years after my first year.
I've seen that in you, actually. I've seen that. I've seen you've been, you know, you're
recentering.
Man. Family's coming first. You're working on your dream, but you know, a lot of guys are like, you know, what's that? Never stop chasing. No, dude, you got to have a life. It can't be just weather, or you'll go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You know,
yeah, you will. I started to dabble in the cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and then when I got my kids, it recentered me. And you know, I put out these warnings as my give back. That's all I got right now. I can't chase, you know, and I can try. I'm trying to sponsor chasers if I can. So
here's a quick peep out. If we get it, I ain't chased a hurricane since Francis, but if we get a decent hurricane in Florida, I might come try to crash out by your pool if that's acceptable.
Oh man, I'll tell you what, you've got a standing offer. Anybody on your team does. You guys are always welcome.
You know, you don't even have to
join
ask,
as well.
So.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
And
come
you,
on,
you know that.
Don't forget
But,
me.
and real quickly
Oh,
before
yeah,
we leave,
Kurt.
I invite you guys to go look at our paper, volume 17, number 3, the first published paper. It's very informative, and you can look up Pacratex, which is our research. Talks about our research, what we're trying to accomplish, what we're doing, and you can always get a hold of Lanny directly if you have some idea of maybe helping him with funding or just anything you might want to chew
Where
the fat
can they
with.
visit that? Where? What site? I didn't hear a website.
It's called a Pacratex. Pacritex. That is the acronym for our research.
Okay.
And it's
.com.
something. Yeah, it's pressure acoustics recordings inside tornadoes experiment.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I again thank you. I know you don't do many of these, and I don't anticipate it'll be a hot minute before I see you again on here. But we'd love to have you back anytime, and I hope to see you out there this spring if I can get out there.
Let's just pray that we have a good year and nobody dies, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That
is the truth.
I don't want to be a memorial beside the road, but if I am, leave a Super Bowl because that's what keeps me going.
It is okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Will do.
Thank you, Randy.
All right,
thank you
guys.
so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Night,
Been a
man.
pleasure.
Oh yeah, we'll do
We'll
it
see
again.
you. We'll be seeing you up for
That's right.
year.
We're the Outlaw Chasers, and we're coming to a storm near you. That's one of my mottos.
I love that. And also check out their Outlaw Chasers on YouTube. You guys, I was really 3 years ago. I told Randy I want to do whatever I can to help you get to 1,000. Randy's catalog is the most criminally underviewed channel on YouTube, in my opinion. Let's help him get to that 1,000 so he can go live and get a revenue source of income from YouTube, guys. So hit the subscribe. We're like 30 away. 30 is nothing. Come on, guys. Thank you. So thanks again, Randy.
Yeah, thank you,
I
Randy.
trade it all
Thank
for a
you.
Rice Krispie treat.
I bet you would. That's the best. I love these old school guys, man. They are the
Word.
best. Yeah. Have a good one.
All right,
Yeah.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Guys, been a pleasure.
See you later.
Adios.
That was cool.